You're still watching Business AM right here in Metropole TV. My name is Nina Shibani. If you're just joining us, I mean, it's only fair that I introduce myself because I am holding brief for Warren Simba, Elijah, Charles Kiage. Now, we have reached the point where we want to talk about the business trends. And with me in studio is Ambrose, Wamari, who is the director on and deal structuring from Miradi Capitals. Very good morning to you, Ambrose.
Thank you very much.
All right, now I'll start off with the man that has been mourned for days now. And this is Bob Collymore, who the country is still mourning. He's passing, which occurred on Monday. And he was cremated on Tuesday at the Kariko Hindu Crematorium in Nairobi. So the memorial service will be held today from 11 a.m. at the All Saints Cathedral. Metropole TV will be giving you live footage from All Saints Cathedral. And all Safaricom shops apparently will be closed countrywide from 10:30 a.m. to 2:30 p.m. Let's just take a look at the mood and how it has been since the death of Bob Collymore. We're going to look into that, as it was a story by Rosemary Kinyanjuri, who will be covering the memorial. Anyway, let's talk about Bob for a bit. From where you're sitting, what type of man would you say Bob is? What type of, if you look at the way he's being mourned, if you look at the way different people are choosing to celebrate his life rather than look at it as we've lost someone or rather it's a demise, what would you say? Any sentiments when it comes to Bob Collymore?
Yeah, well, it's actually very sad what has happened. And first of all, I'd like to give my heartfelt condolences to the family of Bob Collymore and his friends, and the larger Safaricom family and Kenyans at large, because you know Safaricom has touched very many lives. Bob Collymore, to put it very candidly, was like a colossal that straddled the corporate scene, especially in Safaricom. One of the things that really stand out to me about Bob Collymore, you know, he was sick for almost a year, and during that time, nobody noticed. He was in London for a very long time, almost 12 months or more, but nobody really noticed, and that shows you the kind of leader he was. And this actually challenges other managers and leaders in our corporate sector, that how do you work on your succession planning such that even when you are not in the office, things can actually run very well. Even let's say today you have a flu, you are not able to go to the office, things should not stop. Bob Collymore was away for over a year. Safaricom still made more profits than the previous years. Everything still ran smoothly because he had empowered his team and whoever was working under him. And I think that is the biggest legacy Bob Collymore has bestowed the Kenyan corporate scene. And at a personal level, he touched so many lives. He was supportive of culture, the arts, music, the youth, and sports. And these were through personal initiative. I read one of my favorite bloggers said he'd always wanted to be a writer, but the mom wanted him to be a lawyer. And it is through one of the projects that was initiated by Bob Collymore. He was able to get a break, he was able to be paid a lot of money, and actually people sat up and took notice and said, hey, look, writing, creative writing, culture, sports, actually is a career that someone can follow. It's a passion that can actually be turned into money.
And you see, with that mentioned, that's why there's a worry out there with the next person who's going to take over and fill in his shoes. You understand? We've just gone through you telling me about the different achievements that Bob Collymore has made, the late Bob Collymore has made, the different lives that he's touched. And now, do you think that there should be a worry or rather investors should worry, or even Kenyans as a whole nation should worry about the next person who's going to be made the CEO of Safaricom?
You know, there can only be one Bob. And for whatever achievements he did, we celebrate him. But life doesn't stop. I believe because he put systems, he was able to re-engineer the culture. I believe, remember, when Bob Colimo came, there was also another larger-than-life figure in Michael Joseph. And people were worried, oh, will he be able to do this? And he came in.
And he's delivered.
And he's delivered.
Till his death.
So we are hoping that the next person that comes in will come in, follow the culture, and take it up to another level. So for me personally, I'm not worried. And, and if I was to advise any investor or any stakeholder, they should not be worried. Transitions have occurred worldwide. You can remember the story of Steve Jobs with Apple. Tim Cook has come in, done an excellent job. You can look at the story of Microsoft. When Bill Gates has taken a more laid-back role, Microsoft is still up there. So it is all about succession planning, which Bob himself did very well. Because remember, he was away, just like I've said, he was away for almost 12 months. Almost, even when he came back, he was not very active, but the company has still been running.
All right. With that said, we're still on matter Safaricom. So Safaricom Interim Chief Executive Officer, who's of course Michael Joseph, has said that none of the current senior executives at Safaricom were ready to take over the CEO following the sudden demise of Bob Colimo. And in an interview with a local media station, Michael Joseph said he termed Safaricom as a special company that requires an individual with the ability to carry on with the job of leading the country's biggest telco company. Now, Michael further said that he would only play caretaker role, so he's not there to stay. I mean, he also has KQ to deal with, so he's not there to stay. But he says that he is going to be acting a capacity pending the appointment of a new CEO. Let's listen to the bite. Let's listen into what he has to say. All right, now maybe we'll listen into it later on. But anyway, that's exactly what he said. What I've read out to you, that he's just there to hold brief. But they are looking for a CEO to fill Bob Colimo's shoes. Now, the first question I want to ask you is, and I'm sure you've heard the wrangles that have been going on since Bob Colimo's demise. And the argument is, should a Kenyan fill in Bob Colimo's? Is a Kenyan worthy enough to fill into Bob Colimo's shoes?
I think, first of all, I find it very interesting that there is no senior executive that wants to step up in Bob Colimo's shoes, because they are the ones who've literally been running the company when Bob Colimo has slowed down. So I find that comment to be very interesting. I don't know what inspired it, but I want to believe that the current senior executives in Safaricom are up to the task. But I mean, if that was they feel that they are not ready to run it, then it's them. There's really nothing much I can say about that. But coming to what you've asked, that can a Kenyan really fill the shoes of Bob Colimo? And I say, why not? Because remember, worldwide, Kenyans are in very prominent positions, not just in this country, even out there. You find even in academia, there are professors that are heading some of the biggest universities in the world. There are Kenyans that are running some of the biggest corporations out there. So why not Safaricom? And this is our own. One person that, and this is a biased and very personal opinion, I would look at Sylvia Mlinge, who his name has been mentioned a lot.
So many times, even just, was it last week, but when the Member of Parliament, Eden Duale, was trying to justify
Yeah.
the fact that MP Jaguar
Yes.
made the sentiments. He was trying to justify Jaguar's sentiments.
Yes.
And he gave an example of Sylvia Mulinge, who
Yeah.
was given a top position in Tanzania. So, but you can, if you compare Tanzania as a country and Kenya, Kenya is on another.
Yes.
For lack of better words, we are on another level when it comes to development, when it comes to even business. Tanzania still needs to catch up. So probably her being a boss in Tanzania would not really fit the same way in Kenya.
I mean, she's been the chief customer officer of Safaricom for very long. And you see, customer is at the heart of Safaricom as a company, because all their products and services have been customer driven. Number two, she's a woman. I mean, there are very few female CEOs worldwide, and in Kenya in particular.
Yeah.
So for me, I would urge her, because they are saying that all the senior executives don't.
They're not ready.
For me, I would urge her to reconsider the position and actually go for it, because she would break a lot of glass ceiling when it comes to our women. So
you don't agree to the fact that there's no senior executive who's ready to take up that position? You feel like a Sly would actually fit it properly?
Yes, definitely. If I was doing the shortlist, I would put her as one of them. Yes.
All right, now joining us in studio is Ramogi. A very good morning to you. Mr. Late coming. How are you? What happened? We started this a very long time ago. We've just had tea. We've really enjoyed ourselves. You missed the tea.
Yes, and Nairobi is an interesting city. Thank you though for having me.
All right, no, thank you for coming in regardless. Now, you've just caught us in between a conversation. We're still talking about Bob Collym's demise, and my question was, Michael Joseph, who's now acting CEO, says that the other senior executives are not ready to take up the role. So let's start from there. What are your sentiments on that?
Well, I do not have all the details because it's a corporate organization.
Yeah.
So there will be a lot of confidentiality around such information. What I know, however, is because it's a corporate organization, it means they are profit driven. They want the best to head the organization. Their recruitment is not a political exercise, as it would be for the Communications Authority of Kenya. This is a private organization. They want the best, the person who can drive results. From what I heard MJ mention is that they already had a secret, so to speak, a recruitment process. They have interviewed some people. Someone came on top, and that person was not Sylvia Mulinge. I trust that the board have reviewed this adequately and come up with the right decision to have MJ take over in the interim.
So who came out on top?
No one knows. That's why I call it secret.
Secret, and you just said it's not Sylvia Mulinge. I feel like you're shying away from giving us information. What do you know that you don't want to tell us? Anyway, that's fine. That's fine.
He was categorical that Sylvia, I think, came second or third. That there was another candidate that was more preferred. So in that case, I mean, Safaricom is the biggest company in East and Central Africa. Their hiring is not a local exercise. They would be looking at the global corporate market. And so if Sylvia managed to come on top, good for her. If she did not, it's a competitive world. She has to live with it.
Do you think a Kenyan should run it?
The question of whether it's a Kenyan or not does not arise. Again, that's a very political statement. I think it's... But
you see, Kenyans are, let me now, before you go on, and just allow me to put this out there. People are comparing Safaricom with all the other listed companies that we've had. Take a look at KQ, take a look at Uchumi. So they have a reason to worry, because these other two companies have been headed by Kenyans, and they feel like maybe they're not doing well because of the management. Now here's Safaricom, as you said, is the biggest company in Eastern Central Africa. Do you think that a Kenyan would do the same thing that Michael Joseph and Bob Collymore have done?
Look, KCB is possibly the biggest bank in Eastern Central Africa.
Okay.
It's being led by a Kenyan.
Joshua Guy.
So is Equity Bank. which is actually one of the biggest entrepreneurship stories in the region. It's been run by a Kenyan. Actually, Michael Joseph is a Kenyan today. And so that's why I'm like, the issue of Kenyans versus the international community is more of a political statement. There are a few people who are self-hating to the fact that Kenyans should not run and cannot run anything good. And there are others who are possibly just driven by the euphoria of let's be patriotic. But I think we need to have a sober conversation around this and agree to the fact that Safaricom is a global corporation and they need to hire the best to run that corporation. And so it should not be a political exercise of whether someone is a Kenyan or not.
All right. Do you think the investors have any reason to worry?
Certainly not. First of all, of course, my condolences to Bob and his family. But it looks like he knew that this was coming. And it also looks like he shared with the board. So the board was aware that they need to think seriously about succession planning. And so when the decision was arrived on by the second day to have Michael Joseph take over the reins of Safaricom, it was possibly to ensure that the transition is smooth. Because a transition of this kind takes 4 to 6 months. And so I don't think there's any reason for any investor to worry. The succession planning is running smoothly. Of course, there's a lot of political talk out here, but really it's more of just politics. And politics come and go. Right. Moods come and go.
All right. I'd like us to move away from the Safaricom matter, but just remember the funeral service will be at the All Saints Cathedral at 11 a.m. today, and Metropole TV will be giving you live coverage at that particular time. When we get there, of course, we're going to bring you up to speed. Now, moving on swiftly, Taita Taveta County is on the spot. So the Senate Committee on Devolution and Intergovernmental Relations, led by Chairman Senator John Neritu, has called for mediation between Taita Taveta County, Governor Granton Samboja, and members of the County Assembly. This came a day after Taita Taveta County Governor called upon residents of Taita Taveta to come out in numbers to support his petition to dissolve Taita Taveta as a county. This is due to the standoff between the governor and the members of the County Assembly over the proposed 2019 budget for the county. The Devolution Committee says that a middle ground has to be reached in order to save residents of Taita Taveta from bearing the burden of political differences. Okay, with what I've just read, what are you reading from this?
I think it is very unfortunate that in this day and age where we are trying to develop as a nation, we are being held back by self-interest. You understand that all these wars about budget are always about the county assemblies wanting to allocate themselves more money, say give us a kitty to run, say to give us bursary. And it also even happens at national level, at the National Assembly. So it is not something new. And so for me, if you asked me, the budget making process should be very independent. We should figure out a way on how to make our budget making very independent from the politics, such that we use data, we become very objective in resource allocation.
There should be a certain formula that we should be following.
In resource allocation, because every county is unique. Every part of this county is unique. And you know that this county, this is the problem that it has. This is the problem that it has. These are the needs and all that. All that data is available. And it should be based on that. It shouldn't be based on a vote that because the governor has not allocated money for a benchmarking trip, that for us, we are going to shoot down the budget.
Okay. Ramogi, what say you?
I'm really disappointed. And I'm disappointed.
You look it.
Sorry?
I'm saying you look disappointed. The whole time Ambrose was talking, you're just like this. You're just shaking your head.
Yeah, it's disheartening.
Yes.
First of all, I'm disappointed in the governor. Devolution is not for the government, for the governor. He's not, it's not his baby. devolution is for the people of Taita Taveta, for the people of Kenya. They are the ones that demanded that resources be brought close to them. You do not dissolve a county government merely because you're fighting with your MCAs. You fight to the last day. Let the president himself ask you, what's up and how can we help?
Don't take yourself.
Don't take yourself and say, you know what, I'm giving up, dissolve this thing, it's not working. That's very irresponsible. I saw significant strength in Kivutha Kibwana in his first term when he was fighting with his own MCAs. What he did is he took his stand and he said, no, the resources will go to the people and the resources will go to the people. And it is the president who actually intervened and said, look, let me put together a committee to evaluate whether it is necessary to dissolve the county government of Makueni. The committee sat, the committee evaluated the whole problem and gave the president the report to dissolve the county government of Machakos. And on this, I think I really congratulate the president because he said, no, we shall not dissolve the county government of Machakos, of Makueni, sorry. And so the same thing is happening in Taita Taveta. But the way the governor is handling it, Bwana, leaves a lot to be desired. You do not apply to be fired because what he's applying for is, fire me, I'm not doing my job. You fight to the last day.
Yeah.
And so I think the biggest loser in all this battle is the citizen of Taita Taveta County.
So what's the way forward, according to you, gentlemen? What would be the best way moving forward?
Look, the matter is before the devolution committee. If I was in that committee, I would call the governor and tell him, style up, sir. You have work to do and do it. And if you need some sort of mediation between you and your MCAs, call us and let's have a conversation. But you do not dissolve the county government. That I refuse.
Okay.
Yeah.
Ambrose?
I think for me, there are ways in the constitution on how you recall a sitting governor or any other sitting elected official. So for me, it will be to ask the people of Taita Taveta if they are actually fed up with all this, and they recall these people and put people who are willing to work. Number two for me, the long-lasting solution, because you see, these problems are...
They're recurrent.
In every county, there is always war around this. So why don't we put this money in the county's account, and we know Taita Taveta or whatever county has been allocated, say, 10 billion. And then from there, you only draw that money, supervision from the supervision of Treasury, to the specific projects. Okay. Because you see, this money is normally taken to an account. It says that it's for health, and then it is diverted for other sources. And this is what the fight is about.
You've just mentioned something very interesting, and which is, this is something that happens in it's happened before in so many counties where there's a dispute between the governor and the MCAs. What's usually the problem? Why is it all, why it's so many places governor and MCA hawapatani? What's the problem?
It's politics. And one is supposed to have oversight of the other. I am a happy citizen when Parliament and the executive do not see eye to eye, and one has to keep the other accountable, because that means they have not colluded to steal from me. So it's politics, and it's the nature of it. The issue usually is, how do you manage the differences in opinion between the elected leaders in the county assembly and the elected leaders in the executive.
But who's usually the problem? Is it the MCAs or the governor? If you look at the different cases.
In many instances, it's both. Because the MCAs have their own self-interests, and in one or two instances, you'll find the governor feeling like this is unfair to the budget. But there are other instances where it is now the governor with self-interests that the MCAs feel this is unfair to the people. And so it's a balance. In many instances, you find it's both.
All right.
I think I'll just call it as it is. The biggest problem in our country is greed.
Tama.
Because you see, everybody, when they are going for elections, SRC publishes and says, an MCA, for example, there's a time, the first time they published this, they say an MCA is going to earn 79,000 shillings. So everybody who ran for that seat knew that my monthly salary will be 79,000.
Yeah.
The moment they get into power, they say, no, 79,000 is not enough for us. We want 300. It happens also with the National Assembly.
Yeah.
They run in, they're told your salary is X amount, 500, 600,000, 1 million. And you get in, now you start saying, I want house allowance, I want all this, I want all that. And you see, the oversight bodies, which is the National Assembly and the county assemblies, they use this, their oversight role to bully the executive to get more money for themselves. So they tell you, we will not pass your budget until you approve our house allowance of 250,000.
That's what I had. That's
Yeah.
why I was asking. Who's usually the problem? Because I hear the MC has really bullied the
So I
government.
think we should have SRC that has teeth. The citizen of this country should also say enough is enough. And if it is to recall them, for example, if my MP feels that the 1 million shilling that he ran for to go and earn is not enough, then I should be able to recall him and put somebody else who will earn that money.
So there are very many players when it comes to this particular situation.
Yes.
A lot of people need to be called in to try and solve it. We shall be. It's a developing story. I'm sure this is not the last we'll hear of the county as the members of the county assembly and governors having a dispute. So allow me to move on. I want us to look at the maize imports in the offing. The government has approved that the importation of 12.5 million bags of maize, which will include 10 million bags of white maize and 2.5 million bags of yellow maize. So the Agriculture Chief Administrative Secretary, Dr. Andrew Timur, has revealed that the country has enough maize to last until the end of this month. The announcement comes days after it emerged that the number of people facing starvation in Kenya is likely to increase to 2 million shillings this month alone. So how can we end Kenya's perennial maize deficit, according to you two?
I think this is a problem. Like you said, it is perennial. Right now, we just took food to people in Turkana early this year, and Baringo and parts of northeastern. Again, other people, we find that there are again 2 million people are facing starvation. Next year, it will still be the same thing. So number one, it shows you this is a lack of planning and seriousness.
Ramogi.
All right, so a few years back, I think it was just before the elections, we were treated to some drama where there was no maize. Then all of a sudden it was approved that we're importing maize. And then I think within 2 days there was maize at the port of Mombasa. And we were wondering, how did that maize get here? I think that was the best experience of the drama that goes around maize importation. I have a feeling someone has discovered that there is easy money in importing millions of bags of maize. And so no investment is being made towards local production. And when that investment is made, it is somehow spent wrongly, like Galana Kulalu, where I hear billions were spent to just fence the area. And no subsidy is provided to the local farmer, even though what we pay actually subsidizes local farmers where this maize is from. And so it's unfortunate that we are subsidizing farmers in Brazil and Mexico and Egypt, and we are not subsidizing our own farmers. It's also unfortunate that we are not investing locally because someone really wants to make money out of the maize importation. And so it's a sad reality where we are today. Sadly, because we do not have maize, yes, we have to import. But as my brother has said, there is a big problem because we are not planning, we are not investing, we are not thinking of solving the problem, because somehow the problem is enriching someone somewhere.
And another question I'd like to ask, maybe after this question you'll tell us according to you guys, what you think the best way forward would be when it comes to Martyrs Maize, and the fact that it's going to be 2 million people this month who are going to be starving. There's some amount of money that the government puts aside for such situations, be it drought, be it famine. There's always an amount of money in the budget, year on year, that is put aside for that. But at the same time, why are you laughing? But at the same time, for some reason, we don't have it.
Yeah.
At the same time, for some reason, Kenyans come out and you see lorries being stuffed with food, taken to place of the farmer and stricken areas such as Turkana, as you've said. So what is it?
There are 2 or 3 things that I'd probably discuss. One is the issue of storage. We've been treated to scenes of milk being poured out because there is no way of storing it, or food being wasted, especially agricultural production of the kind of maize, because there is no way of storing it. At least in this year's budget, the minister has said they are zero rating all materials that will be used towards food food storage. So that will hopefully solve the issue of storage, because policy has a way of solving problems more than government intervention in itself. The second problem is the issue that we were discussing, the issue of cartels. Now, the guys who import maize, who have the capacity to get the licensing for maize importation, are either in government or very well connected in government. And these are the very people who are entrusted with the duty of implementing some of the ideas that you are talking about and using the budget allocations that you're talking about. And so it's a question of, I can eat this budget and enrich myself with it, and then after that I can get even richer when I finally import maize because there is insufficient maize. And so there is also an issue of governance and an issue of corruption around maize production. In the years past, it was sugar import. Nowadays, the sugar drama has gone down, but the maize drama is still continuing, and we are being treated to the scenes every day.
All right. So now, then what's the way forward?
I think, first of all, it's very sad that somebody can sit down and plans to profiteer from people's lives.
Yeah.
It is very sad. And if such things are happening today in the 21st century, then only God can help us. But to come to your point, number one, we need to look at our production. You know, Kenya, we are producing significantly low yields per acre compared to other countries. So we need to invest in the appropriate technology so that we can. Number two is harvesting. We waste a lot of produce during harvesting. So we also have to come with efficient ways of harvesting.
Yeah.
Number three, transportation. We also still lose a lot of produce during transportation. Either they go bad, there's a lot of spillage and wastage. And as Mr. Ramogi has said, storage. How do we store our maize or whatever produce? Do we have the capacity? You find even the maize that has been stored at times have a lot of aflatoxin, very high level, so it is not fit for human consumption. But also, we need to start thinking on how we diversify our diet. We cannot be that we cannot be that we are only eating maize from January to December. Yet at times we have potatoes, for example, rotting in the farms. We have rice, you know, being sold at throwaway price and all that. There's a time then is it the Minister of Agriculture, Githai, had suggested that Kenya should diversify their budget, their diet, sorry, and bring in a lot of other foods. And he faced a lot of
including rats,
termites, and all that. I would not want to go that route, but there are other produce we can consume so that we don't have this over reliance on maize. You know, because there are a lot of people that if they have not eaten ugali, they have not eaten.
Okay.
So if say, for example, they ate rice and beans, they would say, I've just taken rice and beans, I'm waiting to eat.
That's staple food.
So we should
Ugali
move,
is-
we should try and diversify our diet so
Well,
that we become more food secure.
makes sense. Okay, makes sense.
But I also want, by the way, I'm one of those people who ugali is my food. Any other thing is a snack. And it's very difficult to change some of these things you grew up with. And so it might be ambitious. Maybe if they bring new food and it's more interesting, we'll go for it. But I want to add something to the issue of production. Our production is too rain dependent. And so we need to look at ways of producing food, whether we have rain or not.
Yeah.
Because like already this year, the amount of rainfall we received was too low, which means next year we will have to import maize again. And so that also is within the solution framework.
All right. I'd like us to leave that conversation aside. I mean, you've given all the solutions that can give. Maybe someone in the government might be listening. All right.
Let's hope so.
So, 3 insurance companies have jointly launched a border cover targeting the motorcycle riders. Pioneer Insurance and Minet and Monarch Insurance companies said that the register to be overseen by Minet Kenya will see riders pay 3,560 shillings for third-party public service vehicles. The PSV cover that caters for injuries or damage to third-party property and passenger liabilities arising from an accident involving the PSV and the PSV border. So the Treasury intends to make the third-party cover mandatory for border, prompting a court case by politicians. Border Safety Association National Chairman Kevin Mubadi lauded Minet's register cover, saying that it had been rightly priced. What do you think of this latest move by this insurance company, this new border covers?
I think it was overdue.
Actually, allow me to stop you right there. Let's backtrack just a bit. Do you think this was the right move for the government to make? Insurance for border?
Yes, it is. Because you see, right now, border has weaved itself in our transport system.
Yes.
And it's not about to go away.
No.
Because number one, it's fast, especially if you're talking about in Nairobi, where we have a lot of, at times, very crazy traffic jams. You want to go somewhere, border is the way to go. Actually, you've even seen the taxi hailing apps. All the taxi hailing apps right now have border in their menu. You can order for a border, and then it takes you, and it is very affordable considered to the conventional taxi. Now, it is the right thing because number one, if you make the insurance mandatory, then it means that you have to regulate these people. Right now, borders are largely unregulated. So the riders, some of them are not even trained. Some person goes to a field somewhere, he's taught, but when he's driving on the road, when he's riding on the road carrying a passenger, he doesn't even know the traffic code, doesn't know the traffic signs. At times you find them driving on the opposite side of the road and all that. So the accidents have been very fatal, and they are very many. So number one, even as this insurance comes in, and you see their chairman is saying that it is rightly priced. Now, for me, the biggest question is how do you bring this sector to order? And that will be through having them, number one,
The new policies.
The riders have to be fully licensed. They have to go for training, they have to be fully licensed. Number two, even at policy level, when right now we are designing our roads, because most of the roads don't have a place for border. They weave in through the traffic and through vehicle. So even as we are developing our infrastructure, we need to put a lane for these borders.
All right.
And lastly, well, we need to put them in, say, like circles, like the other PSV matatus are, such that then they can be easily be identified, they can easily be regulated, and they can easily, if they can be easily be disciplined.
Okay.
Yes.
Ramogi.
Well, I think it's a good initiative. But you know what makes Boda Boda very attractive to a regular user? The fact that it's very fast. It does not follow traffic rules. When there is a traffic, they have a way of maneuvering, and they really don't care about the traffic lights. What makes them attractive is also what makes them dangerous. Because at least 80% of all the Boda Bodas on the road today have been involved in accident, in one accident or another. And so it's a very high-risk business to insure.
Yes, that's what I was actually going to ask. Isn't this a high-risk business for the different insurance companies?
It is a very high-risk business for them to insure. But is it not also high returns? Because the economic norm is that a high-risk business is also high returns. And the insurers didn't feel as much. Because ordinarily when it's high risk, you want to price it very highly so that then you are sort of cushioned as an insurer. But then again, they are high risk, and then they are low income, sort of. So you cannot price it too highly. And so for them to get a balance where maybe 3,500 annually, I think, sounds fair. And it's an interesting direction to move towards. That would mean that passengers are taken care of, and of course what he has alluded to, which is drivers will be trained and licensed to ensure that they enjoy the cover. Otherwise, we'll probably get nowhere with this.
I also need just to bring you up to speed. It is a 13 billion business annually.
Wow.
Yes,
Okay.
Yes,
Yes.
it is. And I think people should not close their eyes at policy level, especially government. They need to realize that this is a vital call. Because you see, right now, they have even started replacing the mkokotenis, you know, for the mamambogas and the rest who would have to put their produce in mkokotenis to take them across. Boda Bodas are now filling that void. That's what I was saying. Even at policy level, can we have, you see, the reason why he's saying that they weave through traffic is because our roads in their design have no place for Boda Boda. So if we recognize right now, this early enough, that they are here to stay with us, why don't we have lanes, special lanes for Boda Boda? So when they go, you just cruise. It will also encourage other people, individuals, to start acquiring motorbikes to beat the traffic jam.
So that's.
I wanted to add something, sorry, before you move on.
I want us to shut down. In fact, we really we've gone, and it's, you see, that's what happens when you're having an interesting conversation. You never really.
My
know
apologies for cutting you short.
No, that's fine.
But yes, it's interesting to hear that it's a 13 billion shilling industry. What I would be interested to hear about also is the medical costs of the people that have been involved in this accident, and perhaps the cost of replacing the motorcycles when they are involved in an accident. So then we'll have a full-blown cost-benefit analysis around this industry. Because that is where, they say the devil is in the details. That is where it is. But as it is right now, the insurers have been feeling that it's not as profitable as they would want it to be.
All right. And we end that conversation there. Thank you so much, Ramogi and Ambrose, for gracing us with your presence. It's been a wonderful discussion, and that's why they always say when discussion is really good, you don't see the time running out. But we have run out of time. In the next few minutes, we'll be talking about Martyrs security. So allow me to say goodbye to my guests as I usher in the other guests. So just give me a few minutes for a breather.